So tell me a little bit about Movers Dispatch Board.
Okay, so with Movers Dispatch Board, I kind of tell you a little bit about my background and how the whole thing came about. So I've been in the moving industry for 21 years. I'm a partner for a moving company. We're a full service mover. And just my experience and over the 21 years, we interline a lot of shipments. So we have a lot of owner operators that will haul for us. So it may be just a one man operation with a semi truck or sometimes even a straight truck that are running cross country, running loads for moving companies. And we also work with other moving companies that are either independently owned or, one man shows or the same size as the moving company I was working for. There was no good place to find other moving companies that were interested in interlining loads or a load board where you could find loads like that, where it was a shared load board. And that's kind of how the whole idea of Movers Dispatch Board came about. I thought, gosh, that would be really nice if it was just an easy place. And sometimes you get stuck with shipments that are, for example, a 200 cubic foot shipment that's going to North Dakota. How often do you have your own company running a truck to North Dakota? It doesn't happen very often. But if you could interline with other movers that maybe have a truck going in the area, you could, do that move, not have to run your own trucks. No one's going to run a truck for 200 cubic feet. That just makes no sense. So that was kind of how the whole idea came about, was there should be a shared load board. How could we do that? The other thing that I was really big on is finding good quality drivers and good quality movers. That's a really big thing in the moving industry, is making sure that you are giving loads to reputable companies and reputable drivers that are actually going to do a good job. They are going to come in and if they're doing the delivery portion, they are going to come in and do the, reassembly of the furniture, putting stuff where it needs to go, not damaging the client's items, making sure everything's offloaded off the truck, doing a good job, doing, the service that you've promised your client to. So we did enforce a rating system on Movers Dispatch Board to where you could rate the carrier that you work with. I think it's important. I always feel like online reviews can be a little skewed because typically people who leave reviews are upset about something, and sometimes the review is exaggerated. But on a B2B level, we kind of needed a place to where we could review each other and say, hey, this is my experience with this person was a 1-star or a 2-star. There's no area to leave a comment because I didn't want to start the whole comment situation, but you can leave star reviews, which I think is really important. That was the whole reason behind doing Movers Dispatch Board. And the other need that I saw was, if you are running a truck, let's say you're in Florida and you're running to New York and you've got a client that you're delivering, it's your own client, but you don't have a sales team that book jobs coming back from New York, coming back to Florida. So are you going to run your truck empty? Obviously you're not making money when you do that. How do you find movers in New York that have loads that they do want to interline, that they may be running back? Let's say it caused the driver to drive from New York to Chicago and then back down to Florida. At least at that point, they're not losing money. So that was the whole purpose of the development. It took me probably I thought about it for many years. Then finally, a good friend kicked me in the butt and said, you really have to do this because it's a great idea. So I said, okay. And so from the time that I decided that I would develop, it took about a good year from paper to actual concept, and then started with the development, realized how much back end work there was. I didn't have a software background, but I'm kind of a techie nerd, and started that. And it took about a good year from, the initial beta to like where we're at right now. But it's been constant development. Every month I have new little features, new enhancements, new things that, I realize. I talk to so many movers and so many company owners that say, Nisrine, it'd be so cool if we had this. It'd be really cool if we had this. I talked to a guy from Indiana who said, it'd be nice if we could post our trucks. And I said, that's such a great idea. We're going to do that. And I think it was about 30 days later, I did the truck post situation where you could post the truck. So if you have a truck going to Washington State, and it's going to be there between, December 17th and the 20th, and you have 1,000 cubic feet open, you could post it on the truck board, and people could see that you've got a truck in the area. If they have loads, they could contact you and say, hey, I've got a load, would like to load you up going, and you could post where you're going to end up. So if you're going back to your home state or going somewhere else or anywhere, if you're open to going anywhere, you could put that on there as well.
Nice. Yeah. As a mover, I know when I was there was nothing there. The only thing that was kind of similar to what you're talking about was U-ship. And I hated that because you had to bid for the jobs. It was like an auction place, and then everybody would lowball the hell out of it. And it's like, there's just no way to make any kind of money at all on that.
Yeah. So how this works is if you have a shipment that you're wanting to interline. So for example, a job coming out of, I'll use, I don't know, Nashville, Tennessee, going to Orlando, Florida, and it's 300 cubic feet. So what you do is you would post it on the load board, and then whoever's posting the load would say how much they want to pay per cube. So you could typically, on average right now, I'm seeing about $2 a cube is kind of the average to ship. Also that depends on, where it's going from and to. And so they put the load on there, how much they're paying. If there is a COD balance on the shipment, they put that on there as well. And then you name the price, but it's not set in stone. I mean, you can always message the person who posted the load and say, would you do it for this? Or so it's always open for, negotiating. Movers Dispatch Board doesn't get involved in the financial aspect of the transaction whatsoever. For 2024, we're changing our subscription model. Now, this came from talking to someone else in Washington, D.C. I talked to a gentleman who's got several branches of his company. And he said, Nisrine, a lot of freight boards will let you post loads for free. I said, okay, I get it. That's been my biggest struggle, is getting people to post. So I said, that makes a lot of sense. So in 2024, what we're doing is you can post as many loads as you want on the load board, and you can post as many trucks as you want on the load board, no charge. The only time you actually start or subscribe and actually start paying a monthly subscription is once you start requesting loads. So if you start seeing business that, you can actually work with, that's the only time that you'll have to be a paid subscriber. But you can subscribe, post loads, no charge. So
no, I think that's a smart business model. Just post the trucks, post the things, say here's the load from X to Z, and then if they want the information like the company and the phone number or emails, then they have to be a member and they have to pay for the subscription. I think that's brilliant.
That promotes the load board, that promotes growing the network. That just helps out, because I've lost some subscribers because they said, we were still fairly new. And they just said, well, I didn't find anything. And I don't really want to charge people for that, because I've owned a moving company. I know what it's like. I know what the winter months are like. I know what the slow months are like. We're scraping by in the winters to, live off of what we made in the summer months. So I would rather have a subscriber stay on until it's actually beneficial for their business, and then have them subscribe. I'm all about building good relationships with clients and building a good, strong network than really everyone wants to get rich, but that's not the main goal here. The main goal here was to actually build something that actually works and kind of help everyone. And if I make a good living, then great.
Exactly. I mean, you're not doing it to just be altruistic. You're doing it to create a lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember doing long distance move, going out to like Denver or San Diego or Seattle. I've been in every single state except for Alaska. So, that coming back part is painful, right? Because you're deadheading. So you could rent a truck and go one way, but then that's more expensive than just renting a truck, driving there and coming back.
Right.
I did a job to Seattle, and I charged whatever I charged, but had I said, okay, I want to take a U-Haul truck or a Penske or whatever, if I would have done that one way and then, got on a plane or a train or whatever it was, it would have cost an extra $1,500 to $2,000.
Right.
Just to go one way with a U-Haul truck versus driving there, coming back. It's because you're only paying daily rent for the truck and then mileage.
Right.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I've talked to movers that have that exact model that, will rent a truck and then fly back home. But that can get costly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because what they're going is like, oh yeah, it's cheap because you just have to drive the truck there and drop it off. But what what I have found is they're not including, okay, well, how many guys are you taking? Is just you or you or somebody else? Well, if it's just you, okay, good. But then you got to get a plane ticket. You got to get or a train ticket or a bus ticket. And then you might, if it's a train or a bus, you might have to wait 2-3 days to be able to get on a train that's coming back because they don't run. They're not running every day. So then you're going to have motels and food and all that good stuff. And that adds up. A plane, okay, good. But planes are expensive. Shoot, you do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, the other thing too, you got to keep in consideration labor costs today are a lot higher than they were pre-COVID. So
yeah, absolutely.
Labor's been the biggest during COVID times. We had a really hard time staffing. It was very difficult to staff. We were turning jobs away during that period because it was so busy for the moving company. And then now post COVID, labor rates are so high. So it makes it very costly if you are going to fly a crew there and fly a crew back and they're waiting and you're paying that daily rate they're not going to fly around at no charge. So it all adds up.
It does. So I like that idea that you have a board where I can go on to the board if I'm a subscriber and I can go, oh, I see that Moshi's from New York they got a load and they don't have enough trucks. They don't have enough things. And they need somebody from Moshi's to Austin, Texas.
Right.
You could go, hey, yeah, look, I'm driving up. You're coming from Austin. I'm going to be in New York. I could take the load. I got a 28, 26, 28, 30, whatever it is, truck. I could get it on and come back. And you might not make what you would make if you were to book the job yourself, but you're making enough to pay for the gas and the expenses and the labor so that the job that you did to New York would be 100% profit.
Well, on the way there, it's a profit, but on the way back, it's a loss if you're not bringing anything back. You're not really gaining. You're not really making a lot of money at that point. So that way back is super crucial that you are bringing money back. And when you're interlining on the way back, you're only doing delivery services typically. So you're loading out of a storage facility or someone's warehouse. So jobs already been loaded, jobs already got blankets on it, jobs already packed, already inventoried, everything. You're just picking up and doing delivery services. So it's a very good method. It works. The mover I worked for, we've done it for over 21 years. The interlining and backhauling for other movers, it's a lucrative business. It works. It makes money. And if I could share this method with everyone else in the moving industry, why not? It would also expand for a lot of mom and pop shops who are trying to get into doing the interstate moving. As long as they have their licensing, obviously they have to be licensed to do interstate. So they pick up, hold in their warehouse, and then interline for delivery.
Right.
So that.
Even if it's, right. I love the fact that because if I'm going from Austin to New York to drop off, I might make $10,000-$20,000 on that job, right? But if I have to come back deadhead, I'm making no money. Now I might not make. If I go on your board, I might not make $10,000 coming back, but I might make $5,000, which will pay for the expenses.
Exactly.
Right.
It'll definitely, you'll make money. You will not break even coming back, and the rates are pretty reasonable. And so you will not make money if you do the numbers between what you're going to, make. And I've had some people say, hey, well, the rates are low. Well, they're low if you're looking at it as if it were a pickup. But you need to look at it as this is an interline. So you're only doing 50% of the job. 50% of the job's already been done. The packing's already been done. The wrapping's already been done. Disassembly's already been done. You're just basically going to go in and then do the delivery side of things.
Right, but you might have to have somebody or whoever's got the job might have to come in and actually load up the truck for you, though, right?
Yes. How it typically works is whoever's coming to load, they're responsible for the loading of the truck. So let's say and obviously people could work it however they want to, but in my experience, how it's been done is Let's say you've got a load I'm coming to get out of your warehouse. I would be responsible for the load from your warehouse. So whether I use some of your own labor at your warehouse to load up my truck, but that driver is responsible or that company is responsible to pay for the load at the warehouse, and then obviously responsible at the delivery. But when it's already at the warehouse, that's a quick load. Everything's already inventoried, everything's wrapped, everything's packed. It's pretty quick. You're not packing up at a house.
Right. So yeah. So I mean, that's actually nice, because if they're a fairly decent size, they probably got a warehouse that's dock level. So it's just a matter of driving, basically putting it on.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then of course you're going to have to unload it. So you'll have to get a crew. But if it's coming back to your hometown, you can use your crew, or you can just hire somebody off of Moving Helper or Hire Helper or something to do the unload.
Exactly. The other thing too, you can also do it on a pickup. So for example, if you've got a client, you've got a big company that you do employee relocations for, and they've got a location, let's say they are moving an employee from Chicago. You could have that company pick up the load for you, hold it at their warehouse, and then if you're wanting to pick it up from their warehouse and then bring it back for delivery, or you could interline that way too. You could interline a pickup as well and have someone just do origin services if that's possible. If they're able to do origin services, which if they're a moving company, they'd have, the supplies, the blankets and everything to do a pack. We do have a couple of brokers. I know brokers are, some people love brokers. Some people hate brokers.
Yes. Boo.
I know. I've seen some good ones and I've seen some horrible ones. In business for 20 and 21 years, trust me, I've seen some where like, yeah, no, thank you. I'm good. I'm going to pass on that business. And some decent ones on there. So my goal is to have decent brokers. If we have any decent brokers that are wanting to join the load board, great. But my big thing is service is super important. The carriers that we have on, important. I'm in the business to build a good reputation and to build a good, strong network. I'm very involved in a lot of things. I'm highly involved on LinkedIn with a lot of other, moving companies. So I'm not trying to put a bad rap on our load board. So it's super important that whoever decides to get on, I'll throw someone off the load board if I know some shady business is happening, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to build good reputation, and the moving industry really needs that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bad movers out there, and so, but they're not all like that.
Right. Let me ask you. Okay, now 7-Figure Moving Academy, our primary target audience that we help and we consult are new guys and small moving companies, and our goal is to get them from a beginner up to making grossing $1 million a year. From there, there's other people that can consult them from that high at the thing. But my goal is to get them established, get them profitable, get them going. Now, the reason why I say that is because if I'm a new guy and, I'm a little intimidated by the long distance move, and, I might not have a truck, and I don't have the crews to do a long distance, because I really personally, when I try to consult, I try to get the new guys not to do long distance jobs, only because they can make more money locally in the same time that it would take to do a long distance job, right? If I'm going from Michigan, where I'm at, to California, that's 4 days there, 4 days back, right? That's 8 days, 8 days. In that 7, 8 days, I could done 5, 6, even 7 jobs that would have made me more money gross than that long distance job, right? But would this be a good fit for them to say, okay, good, I booked this job and I can go to the load board, say, I got this load, it's got to go on this day, here's the address that you go, we'll do the loading for you, and we'll schedule somebody at the end to do the unloading? Would that be something that a new moving company that doesn't really have a warehouse, doesn't have multiple trucks or a semi, is that something that they could fit into their business model?
So if they're going to interline the delivery portion of it, yes, but they do have to have a warehouse, because if they're loading up the shipment, so typically how the interlining is done is it's picked up from the client's home and then brought into some facility, whether it be a storage facility or a warehouse facility. It's got to be brought in somewhere. At that point, when it's brought in, that's when the shipment's consolidated on a third-party truck to interline. So it would require that they have a warehouse or a location to hold, unless they posted the load on the load board and arranged with a third party, let's say, XYZ moving company, this local company booked the job, they're going to be on site, and then they're using a third party, XYZ or 123's truck's going to be in the area, and they showed up and they loaded the shipment straight onto their truck.
Okay,
that would work.
Yeah, so if I had a truck,
scenario, that would completely work. But typically on the interlining, how it's done is it's picked up, it's brought into a warehouse, and then from there, shipments are transferred onto, okay, this truck's going East Coast, I got a truck going to the West Coast. And that's why they have those transit windows between either 1 to 10 business days or 1 to 21 days for delivery. So that way it gives you enough time to consolidate the shipments and consolidate the loads, because most movers aren't going to have a full semi going from Texas to California on a regular basis. Each client's moving to a different city, state, and they all have different delivery times, and every job's a different size.
Right.
So the nice thing about locals, so there's two pros to both local and long distance. I think locals fast money, locals fast money. You do locals, you get in and get out, you get paid real quick and you're done. Long distance, there's more logistics involved. It's a little bit more coordination and more, you've got to have someone who's in, figuring out, okay, we got to meet their delivery time. I got to find a truck. I got to make sure that I'm not running a truck that's, half empty. If you're running a truck that's half empty, you're losing money. So you've got more logistics and stuff to kind of figure out. It's better money per shipment if you do long distance, but you have to do it on a large, multiple shipments. It's not, one local job's going to depending on your hourly rates and stuff, you may make a couple of $100 on a local job, but on a long distance job, you're going to 4x that.
Right. Exactly.
So,
all right. Excellent. Thank you. So if we're doing a long distance, then if I'm still a new guy, I'm still like you said, I'm going to need to have a warehouse or something like that, or a storage facility or something like that, where I'd have to store for a short time until the guys arrive. Or I could have it loaded, have it on my truck, and I could take my truck to them and have it loaded directly onto their truck. Right? Is that correct? Could that be done?
Correct.
Okay. So there's still a way for even the new guys and the mid-sized guys that I work with to do this and use this facility. It's not just reserved for the big guys with semis and that are traveling. They're not just van lines.
I've seen a lot of owner operators run straight trucks. I've seen companies run straight trucks and actually do the long distance moves. So you don't necessarily have to have a semi to do long haul. So absolutely not. You could absolutely run on a straight truck.
Okay, good. So this also, if they wanted to get into the moving business, as long as they were properly licensed and insured, even if they had like a lease truck or rent truck, they could go to your load board and get all the loads they want and just travel all over the country like their own little van line.
Correct. Absolutely. So biggest thing is they have to have interstate authority. So that's to interline, you've got to have interstate authority. So they have to have interstate authority. Otherwise they can't, book these jobs and load them at that point. They're not licensed. So they do have to have that. You can't do that on a local, just like on a state local DOT number.
Right. They're going to have an MC number and the proper insurance and stuff like that.
Correct.
But that even still, it's like, that's actually a fairly decent business model if they wanted to use your load board for that. Because if they go into, let's say they're traveling, they got a job up to New York, they unload it. They can get like some labor only guys to unload it, however they can get from the list guys or hire a helper if they want to go cheap. And they can get another load, go pick it up, get it loaded on, and then down to Florida if they wanted to do that.
Correct.
They don't actually have to literally touch anything if they want. They just drive.
Yes. Yes.
You were hesitant there.
This really helps a lot of people. It helps a lot of companies who don't have the network, the large network.
Right.
So this helps them network. It's a great place to be. So if they're wanting to get into interstate, or if they already do interstate, maybe there's an area where they don't run trucks to, but they want to book these jobs, so they can book jobs, get them picked up. And then if they're needing the delivery to be like the first example I gave you, if you're based out of, Tampa, Florida, and you've got a shipment going to Seattle, Washington, that's 500 cubic feet, it makes absolutely no sense to run a truck to Washington, Washington State with 500 cubic feet. You're losing money at that.
Right.
It makes absolutely no sense. But
Right.
if you pick it up and then you've got another carrier who's in the area that is running back to the West Coast, let's say they're a California-based company and they are going to run trucks up to Washington State, or they do run. There's several companies that I know that are in Northern California or Portland, Oregon, or somewhere in Oregon, and they run up to Seattle, Washington. So for that situation, it would completely make sense to do something like that. Makes no sense to run a truck that's not completely full.
Good.
And even if you're local, for example, let's say you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and there's another company in Dallas who let's say you're running loads to Chicago and you only have 50% of your truck filled out, but you need to run shipments up there. You may be able to partner with some of your local guys that are in the local area that will have you haul for them. We've done that situation multiple times too. So.
All right. Okay, good. So that's good. I mean, that's amazing. I really wish during my heyday, when I had my moving business, you guys would have been around, because I deadheaded so many times. Right. And there was times that, like in the wintertime, that I could have had my guys on the road picking up loads, going, and just constantly on the road. I could have had them on the road for like 3 weeks out of a month during the wintertime, just doing jobs.
Right.
So why it's not making a lot of money, I got a 26-foot truck, I might get one load, but I can still have them go, okay, they drop off in, Nashville. Okay, good. The next one is going over to St. Louis. I could have just had them go, zip zapping around, or, pick up 2 or 3 different loads, 3 small loads, like you're saying, like 200, 300, 400 cubes. I could put 2 or 3 of those on my truck. So I like that motto, especially right now where, as moving business is down and people are going, how do I keep busy? How do I keep going? And this would be a perfect way if they have their proper authorities. Now, obviously they don't have to go across straight lines. You still have the load boards. I could pick something up, let's say in Dallas, and take it down to San Antonio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The load board's built for both local and long distance, so you could post either one on there. So we're already set up that way, and you can filter between local, long distance. So absolutely, you could do that. For example, like Dallas, if you're Dallas, for example, if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you've got a shipment going to El Paso, even though it's still in state, it's almost a long distance move. El Paso's 7-8 hours away. So in that situation, you could interline that shipment. Houston's a 5-hour drive, unlike the East Coast. 5 hours gets you 3 states away, 4 states away. In
Exactly.
Texas, you're still in the same state.
Right. No, I've driven through Texas. I'm very aware. Okay, great. That's amazing. Now, how do we maintain? I mean, you said you have a star rating system, but I mean, how do we know? How do we maintain quality? How do we know? Okay, if I'm going to put a load up on the thing, how do I know that this guy is going to get this done in a timely manner and not just drop off or just say F you or they're not going to bust things up? You know what I'm saying? How can I ensure for my customer that if I put this load on the board, they're going to get the quality that I would give them?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is that that you do your research on whoever loads that you're giving to, whoever you decide to interline with. key thing, having an interlining agreement with whatever carrier that you're going to use before you release any load is key. A lot of transportation attorneys, and we may eventually put a standard interlining agreement template on the site to just kind of help people, so that way they don't have to, because if you're a small company, you don't want to hire an attorney. So we may put a template out there, but just kind of a standard interlining agreement between you and the carrier, so that way your expectations are set there. I would ask for references in the moving industry. Who have you hauled for? I would definitely ask for that. Make sure that they've been around for a while. We are building an API link with FMCSA. So we should have that done in the beginning of the year. Currently, when you're on the site and you see company details, for example, if you had a load on there and I was requesting a load, we've got a link. It's not fully automated yet, but you've got a link where you click and it'll take you to the Safer Web, and you can see the company's licensing and insurance. That's super important. Just clicking on that link and seeing if their household authority is active or not, super important. But you can also see, obviously, their complaint, their complaint history. So you do need to personally check each company before you release loads. Movers Dispatch is not taking any responsibility for any of the, individual. I'm not vouching that every carrier on there is going to be the best carrier on there, but if we do get complaints about a carrier, we'll definitely do our own investigating. And if we feel that they don't fit our culture and they're, not doing what they need to do, or they're, out there scamming people, then they're going to be off the board.
Yeah, because I mean, I haven't dealt too many times, but having dealt, sorry, I know you're okay with them, but having dealt with brokers, what happens is a lot of time you go and do a load things, and then whoever comes and picks it up, they go, okay, now it's gonna, before they drop it off, you said it's 3,000 pounds. Then also the carrier on the other end is going, no, it's 6,000 pounds, and we're not going to unload it unless you give us a double the amount of money or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then now they're holding that customer hostage.
Right.
That's what I would be. That's what I'm.
Yeah. I'm definitely not okay with any of that. And I'm not okay with all brokers. I'm not totally anti-broker. There are some good people out there. I don't think I can't really categorize and say everyone is horrible. That would just.
I'm sure there's
I think
2% of them are good.
Maybe, but if I have a situation where I get a lot of complaints about something, for me, the headache's not worth it.
Right.
I take the same motto in the moving business. If I give someone a quote and I know they can't afford it, I almost don't really want their business, because it's more of a headache than what it's worth.
Exactly.
I want the customer who, this is the price, this is what it's going to be. And DOT guidelines are really clear about, if you're going to revise a quote, it needs to be done pre-loading. Before you get the stuff on your truck. They need to know. Why would you want to load someone up who can't even afford your move? Why would you even want that headache? I would rather walk away from a job and say, hey, look, if I walk to a job and I think it's going to be $1,000 more or $100 more or $200 more, let them know before it gets on the truck. Why do you want it on your truck if it's the headache? You're incurring the expenses.
Right.
You're going to incur a complaint. You're going to incur a headache and bad reviews and this and that. It's just not worth it.
Right. I mean, and it behooves you too to make sure that the guys who are on the board are playing straight ball. They're not being funky, because that's going to ultimately give you a bad reputation. And the guys like me, they're not going to want to come to your board. So you're going to be
absolutely.
You monitoring in that situation by doing the star rating service, which I think is brilliant. I think that's amazing, because then I can go and go, okay, good. I put this load up. I've got contacted by 3 carriers. 2 of them have bad star ratings. One of them's got I can choose the guy with the good star rating.
Right. Absolutely. I personally have called a lot of the subscribers on the platform. I've personally called people and said, here's my cell number. Give me a call, whatever you need. I talk to them. I find out what their needs are. And a lot of my ideas, and I've told people, give me your feedback, because whatever you tell me, the biggest feedback that I've gotten from people and that they were scared of is they are like, we don't want to put loads on there if we don't know who the carriers are and what if they do a bad job? Nobody wants that headache. Nobody
Exactly.
wants that headache.
Right.
Reputable moving companies don't want that. So, and neither do I. I don't want that on the load board either. So there is, that's why we're going to do the direct connect, the API connection with FMCSA. So that way, when you do view their profile, automatically you see their licensing. So you don't have to go through like the extra click and stuff. So it'll be on there. That'll be one thing that we'll definitely do. But I want people to know that there are a lot of good companies out there that do want to interline, and we're going to try to keep it as reputable as possible. So, if we got someone doing a bad job, we'll boot them off. It's not worth the subscription.
Exactly.
It's not worth the subscription amount. If we want good service. And like I told you, I'm kind of involved with a lot of like the local moving organizations and stuff. And so, I'm out there to put it and deliver a good product for everyone.
Amazing. That's awesome. I mean, so far I'm very impressed, but I want to backtrack a little bit. And we're talking about the interlining agreement. For those guys who don't know what an interlining agreement is, could you explain a little bit about what that is? What because there's a form for it. I forgot what it is, like a 1404 or something like that.
So basically what the interlining agreement we used was drafted by a local transportation attorney, one that's actually represents a lot of I can't disclose the name, but represents a lot of the bigger insurance companies in the area and stuff. So I've worked with him quite a bit. But what an interlining agreement is an agreement between two parties or two transportation companies. And what it would do is just kind of disclose, okay, here's what we're requiring out of you. Here's what our expectations are. Here's what our insurance requirements of you are. Here's what we're going to do. One of the big things is the stipulation of, okay, the shipment's covered under a full value replacement coverage or 60 cents per pound, making sure that whoever's picking that up knows what the coverage is on the shipment. Knowing that in the event that there were any kind of discrepancies, who's liable for the shipment at what point, So it's basically an agreement between two parties saying that I'm giving you this shipment and you're going to transact on my behalf, pretty much is what it is.
Okay. Right. Awesome. Now, this interlining agreement. This isn't something I can go to ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, knock me out a template for an interlining.
I don't know. Maybe AI is so advanced today. We should try it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. No, I will. I'm actually going to test it. So if anybody's watching this video, if there's a link saying for ChatGPT, link down below for an interlining agreement, that's what it is. If there's no link, I didn't do it and it was crap. So
yeah.
But okay, great. So now bills of lading and all the contracts, terms and conditions and everything that I have for my move, right? Obviously that has to be transferred to the carrier, especially if it's going across state lines.
Correct.
So I was noticing on the board, I'm looking at your board right here, that you have a way that I can upload all those forms for the carrier, and they can download them from your site, or do I have to do that directly?
Okay, so when you're uploading a shipment to Interline, you can upload the bill of lading and inventories directly onto our site. So let's say at that point, some company decides, hey, I'm gonna haul this shipment for them. They get a request. You request it directly from the load board. It sends that company who posted the load a request saying XYZ company is interested in this load. You have then the opportunity to review them, to decide, do you want to work with them? You look at their DOT, whatever you need to do to decide whether you're going to give this person this load. If you do, you hit yes. At that point, it gives them access to view the documents, like the bill of lading and the inventories. That way, when they show up to your warehouse, they know what they're getting into. They already see the documents. That company can also assign that to a driver. So a company can give their drivers user logins. So for example, if that driver is already in Kansas City and you want to send him information on this, you can send it to him electronically. So then that driver, he or she will log in, and then they can see the documents. They know that they're going to pick up a load from this company, and these are the documents. When they get there, obviously they're given the paper documents. Eventually, I'd like to add digital documents. I'll tell you about that in a sec. But once they show up, they load up the shipment. If they're given paper documents, they go do the delivery. Client signs off on the paperwork. They can take pictures of the signed bill of lading, signed inventories, and upload it. What I'd like to do is add a digital signature portion to where if there were no manual paperwork, the client at delivery could just sign electronically and it'll get it back to the original owner of that bill of lading. So that way you don't have to deal with the paper. There's no paper trail. So we haven't added that feature yet. It's something that we're going to. So that's the whole process of the document share. It's so that you're uploading that. And then when they're done with the delivery, it's instant. So they just go back onto the load board, paperwork's there. They can download it.
Right. So that I can get, like, if I have my load, I can then have my shipper at the end have it signed. That guy can show me, upload that up. I can now download that to show that the job is completed and so on and so forth.
Correct.
Now, do you have any plans in the future here? I know you say you don't do it now, but is there any plans to have this where when somebody has a load and in a carrier in a company and a carrier come to an agreement that there's the payments transacted through the system? So okay, I got this load. I'm willing to pay $600. So I then send you $600, and then that's kept like in an escrow, and then later on when it's done, and absolutely. I approve, it gets,
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest struggles in the industry. If there is a COD balance and you're working with a new carrier, making sure that the driver's getting paid on time and that the company who you're delivering the load for is getting their balance back on time too. Because if you're paying a driver $1,500 and the balance on a job's $3,000, that driver owes you $1,500.
Right.
Currently, that transaction isn't transacted on the load board, but that is something that we're going to look into. It was part of my initial development, but there were some tricks to it, and I wanted to make sure that we executed properly. That will be a feature that we will add on there, because at that point it solidifies the load board and the people transacting on it and people making sure that they're getting their money. Because that is a big headache in the industry, is that making sure that the driver's getting paid on time and that the company, if there is a balance, they're getting their money on time too. Right. So that's something that we do want to look into. I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's a solid. I've had multiple companies ask me about the same question.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, the way it goes, I have to really trust the carrier, and the carrier really has to trust me that this, if there's a COD, right, and the shipper's got to pay the final cost upon delivery, and I'm owed from the shipper $4,000, and I'm giving the carrier $2,000 to $3,000 of that. I got to know that carrier is going to give me my money, right?
Exactly.
And that carrier has to have confidence that I'm going to pay him.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's a big need. I mean, right now, there's ways to do it, but it just adds a lot of complexity to it. But you could do it through Venmo or whatever. Like, the guy will get it, or the customer pays by credit card. I run the credit card and then directly pay
the driver, Venmo the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, hey, if I was running an interlining load and I had loaded a driver for the first time and I had a big balance, I'd have the client pay me directly first, and then I'd pay the driver. I would have the client pay me and cut the driver a check, give the driver a check for the, for the money I owe him for the delivery service, or tell him, hey, as soon as you're done unloading, call me and I'll Venmo you or Zelle you, Exactly. But I for the first time, as me as a business owner, would I do that? Probably not. So I think you have to be careful the first time you run, but if it's a big company, more than likely you're fine. I think the ones where you probably have to screen a little bit more is the owner operator, maybe the guy that's running a one truck operation that you're you probably have to do a little bit more research on just to make sure, am I going to get my money?
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, if you're doing a big guy that had like a big company, like a good friend of mine in Atlanta, Eric Works, works moving and stuff. He has his own semi.
Right.
Right. So I know that, hey, if I have him pick up a load for me, right, to do a load, and we got an agreement, I could probably set up a 30-day net with him, you know, because he's a big enough company. He can cover all of those, those operating costs for the short period. But like you said, if it's just a mom and pop, you know, that transaction should probably as instant as possible. Like, hey, I'm going to trust you. Here's that $3,000 that I said I'd pay you. You know, you now got to send me $4,000 back or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
Right. I mean, that's a tough sell to get the customer to pay you in full at the beginning if you're doing a long distance trip, especially if you're talking 5 figures or more.
Yeah. You can solve that by just taking a card payment over the phone at the time of delivery.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, oh yeah, they're there. Good. Call up the customer. Hey, my guy's there. I just need I need your credit card. We'll run it. Good. Yeah. Boom. Get that credit card. It's approved. I then immediately Zelle or Venmo the
Correct. At the time of delivery. That solves that problem right then and there.
Yeah. All right, cool. What are some of the biggest bugs that right now with your load board as far as carriers and guys with the loads? What are you finding that would have to be overcome for, let's say, if I'm putting a load or I'm being a carrier? What are the biggest loads between us? Not necessarily with your business, but the thing that we would have to overcome and be mindful of.
Be more specific as far as bugs when I think bugs in technology, on the technical end of things.
Well, that's
be
similar.
More specific as far as like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, what is there when it becomes between, what do you call a guy who puts a load up on? Obviously, I'm not a carrier. So what's your?
Oh, okay. I got you. So there's, would you register on, and sign up on Movers Dispatch Board? I've got it set into 3 different categories. So I have it set up as if you're a moving company, a carrier, or a broker, just 3. I have it categorized in 3 different categories. What I consider a moving company is, someone who's actually, a mover who's actually picking up and delivering, interlining, doing everything. The funny thing is both the moving company and carrier have the same power on the load board. They can do the same things. So one thing they can't do is post a load to broker out, because a moving company, unless they've got broker licensing, can't legally broker out loads, right? So they can only interline. So if you're registered or signed up as a moving company or a carrier, you can only post loads to interline, a pickup or a delivery, but you can also post trucks that you have available. If you're signed up as a broker, the only thing you can do is post jobs that are, ready to be serviced altogether, like pickup and delivery. That's it. You can't pick up jobs off the load board. You can't post trucks on the load board because you technically don't have trucks. So you're only posting jobs. I think if I go back to the biggest, and maybe not, well, it has kind of been a struggle. It's been a struggle to get people to post their loads on there. So I've done a lot of different things to kind of build the network. The interest is there. I've talked to so many companies, and everyone I talk to and I pitch it to, they love the idea. So by changing the subscription model, I'm hoping that will overcome I don't want to pay if I have loads to post. So hopefully that will get people going and getting their loads on there. We did put a Zapier integration on Zapier as Marketplace. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Zapier. Yeah.
So we're on the Zapier Marketplace. We just got that final okay from them earlier this week. So we're definitely on the Marketplace. So I've kind of been letting everyone know, let your CRM provider know we're on Zapier. So how that'll work is if a shipment's in the SIT status on your CRM, and you maybe change it to a ready for delivery status or whatever your status action will be, the trigger on your end with your CRM, and they can decide what that trigger would be, if it's changing the shipment status or whatever action it is on their platform. But the triggers on our end already has been set up. And so we've got 3 trigger points. One's the creating a post for a pickup. One is for a interlining a delivery. And then one's for a broker post. So if they book a job, it goes on the load board. So that hopefully will help automate the process. We've also done the Excel integration to where you can upload quickly with Excel. Hopefully that'll help. And we've shortened the form so you can put as much or as little information. There are just some required fields, and those are the fields that appear on the load board. But all the other stuff, like if you want to put long carry information, stairs information, hoisting information, packing, unpacking, you can put as much or as little of information on. But there are some required fields on there.
Right. Now, here's a question I'm sure you get quite a bit. I'm a company. I put a load up on the board. I get a carrier who's interested in doing the job. Things happen, for whatever reason. I mean, the perfect move doesn't exist. So there's, let's say, some damage. Maybe, I don't know, a mirror gets broken, or, there's some scratches or whatever. How do we handle that? Does that have to be handled completely between company and carrier, or is there some sort of arbitration service or anything that you have through your system, or anything that you're planning on in the future to help relegate that and ensure that there's, there's no friction or tension, or, no one's bad mouthing each other and stuff like that, so that it gets done, and it gets done professionally and cleanly and efficiently?
So with my personal experience, how that typically works is whoever's issued the bill of lading is actually the liable party.
Right.
So if John Doe hires, XYZ movers to do his move, they're the responsible party for the shipment. They've issued the bill of lading. They're the responsible party for the shipment. When you interline with the interlining agreement, then at that point you specify, okay, at this point when I'm interlining the shipment, who's going to be the liable party for the goods once they're on, whoever's truck. How we've handled it is whoever is the company that's picked up the load, that's who they file the claim with. They don't file the claim with the interlining party, because the interlining party is acting on your behalf. Basically, they're your representative.
I agree.
So the client should never really know that you've interlined. The client doesn't really need to know. Technically, you are legally required to let them know who has the shipment. So let me take that back, because FMCSA does require, if you're interlining, that a notice gets that they know that who's holding their shipment.
Right.
But the claim goes back to whoever created the bill of lading. Insurance companies will typically subrogate. If it's a large claim, that's really the only time we've really subrogated back, but on little stuff, we've just taken the claim.
Right.
But that's going to be up to the two parties in an interlining agreement, how they decide, how they want to handle that. And so I can't really tell people how to run their business.
Right.
I've only know how I've done it in the past. Right.
Yeah. And I'm in full agreement with you. If I were the one to do it, if there were some damage to a shipment, right, for whatever reason, right, obviously I'm going to take on the responsibility. So if there was damage and a claim needs to be done, boom, awesome. Now, the thing is that how do I now go back? And I would have to, obviously, in what you're suggesting is in the interlining agreement, if there is any damage that is done while that carrier's carrying it, or because they screwed up in the loading of it on their truck, or the unloading, or heaven forbid they got in a major snowstorm in Montana and slid off the road, and whatever the case, and things happen. They just do. It's just part of our business, right? There has to be some sort of agreement between the carrier and us that they're going to be responsible for their portion, right? Even though
Correct.
we will take care of it with the shipper, they've
Correct.
got to now handle it with us.
Right.
What I'm asking is there some kind of arbitration or any kind of thing that you provide? And I think you've answered that, which is no, it's just between the company and the carrier.
Yeah, I think it just brings in too much liability in for us as the load board. I think my focus is really just to provide the networking place for everyone, and not really get into the legal of maybe that's something we can look into in the future if it's something that our subscribers are like, hey, this is a real need for this. And we can look into it and say, this will be an additional feature that we'll offer and provide. Currently, I don't have that in place.
No, I think that would be a great feature that would add confidence to your board. You're saying you have to, a lot of people are unwilling to put loads. And I think it's because what happens between the damage and blah, 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 this and that. If you had that where there was some sort of arbitration service, which could be an additional service that, that you guys provided, not necessarily that you did it or, what I mean, but you provided it because that there was some sort of way that could get resolved. I think that would add confidence. And not for me personally, I would do it because I've been in the moving business, almost two full decades, so to me, I know what happens and I would be prepared for it. And I would already have, should something, I would already have that available. And it would just be thing. And most companies are going to be professional and look, hey, good. I might have to pay my shipper, but you're going to have to pay me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the shipper should never have the headache of trying to figure out where they need to file a claim.
Exactly.
That should never be on the shipper. That the shipper should just go back to whoever they hired to do the move. That's where they're, and then the back end of the transporter who transported the shipment and the company who posted the shipment on the load board, though, they should be the two to figure out, okay, this is our agreement. This is how I'm going to handle all my claims. You damage stuff, what's on your truck, I'm going to bill you back. We'll settle on the claim, but you're getting an invoice for that.
Right. I agree. I think, and that's, any kind of owner operator that works for a van line or a large, moving business, that's in their typical agreement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, going back to Eric Works, who's a friend of mine, when he has owner operators in his company, he has an agreement and should, Eric Works, his company will handle with the shipper the thing, but he's going to bill his owner operators for that damage. So they get, so that it'll come off their next shipment or next few shipments or whatever it is, but they're going to pay him back for whatever he had to pay. If it were their fault, if it was on him completely, then he eats it, obviously. But I definitely think though, for smaller companies, they're stressed out. So if there were something in the future, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, if there was some sort of arbitration or something where I could go to you and you could provide an arbitration service, whether you guys did it or not, or it was a private company or you facilitated the arbitration, I think that would be good because, I think that would, if you're having problems, I don't know if you are or not, you kind of mentioned that people not doing loads, maybe this would add that confidence they needed to go, okay, good. If there is a disagreement or there's some sort of disparity, I could go to Movers Dispatch Board and there's a program that gets handled, whether you do it in-house or you have a third-party company or whatever.
I love that suggestion. That's a really good one. I've put it into my notes I like that a lot. So I've put on the interlining agreement template. I think that would be very helpful for a lot of people, and
I agree.
Our service to help people with that, because that you're not the only one who's brought that concern to me as far as how do we know that we're going to get a carrier that's going to do a good job. And I do want to build confidence, and I want people to know that my goal is to build a good network, a network of moving companies, owner operators that are actually out there to do a good job.
Right.
That's what we really need, and we all know in the moving industry in the slow season, sometimes it's difficult to keep our staff on board, our crews, because, we may have 150 jobs that we do a month on, in the summer months, but then in the winter months, we're doing 40 jobs. We're doing 50% of the jobs. And, it's hard to keep everyone on board. So This allows you to maybe keep a smaller staff on board and network with other movers. So it's important that we know that we have a good network of solid, reputable movers who want to do a good job and expand their business and make money, and nobody wants a headache.
Right. I mean, I really see the value in this completely. I mean, truthfully, if I still have my moving business, I don't care how much your monthly membership, I would sign up, just because like in the wintertime, I could keep my guys busy. I could keep them on the road for 5 days a week.
Yes.
If I have 1 or 2 trucks, even if I send 2 guys for each truck, I know that I could get enough loads within those days, or in the month, that I might not make a lot of money, but I will make enough money to pay for the trucks, pay for the insurance, keep them employed, keep them happy, or even if I'm just breaking even, as long as I'm keeping them busy, I then don't have to worry about, like, oh my goodness sakes, they're going to leave. And, I now have to rehire my good guys.
Exactly.
So, even if I'm breaking even, if I'm just breaking even, that would be a win, knowing that I have that crew still available.
Absolutely. So one thing that I've talked to a lot of movers, and what they'll do in their slow months, is run freight. That's been a big one. I've talked to a lot of them and said, well, this is what we do when we're slow. We supplement with freight. We'll run freight. Great. Another good thing that movers could do is, once our network is big enough on Movers Dispatch Board, well, you could run trips during the, slower months, and then pick up jobs from different states. So get your driver out on the road for staying, in state, and trying to pick up as many loads as you can in the area that you're at. You could pick up loads from other states and just send your driver out on trips and pick up and deliver in surrounding states. So, and not stay local.
Right. Well, and this is good too, because, ideally, if I'm going to send somebody that's going to go out of state, you don't want to do more than 500-600 miles away. It's just, if you're going more than 600, it's just not cost effective. While you can make a lot of money, when you add in all the expenses, you're still only coming out of a $10,000 job. You're still probably coming out with a profit of $2,000 or $3,000. Right. After you get fuel, hotels, per diems, it just, so, but if you're like, for instance, if you're in Chicago, which is near me, right, and you're running a tri-state operation, like Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, maybe Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, that kind of area, you can send out a crew that just sits those major metropolitan areas.
Yes.
And make, you could keep them out for 5 days, but they could do a lot of the smaller jobs that makes up enough. I send somebody from Chicago to Minneapolis if I'm in Chicago, and then I come back from Minneapolis to Chicago, or, I can go Chicago to St. Louis back up to Chicago. This would keep the guys busy. It would keep you making. I love that whole thing. That really solves a lot of problems. What other problems, now that we're on it, does your Move Dispatch Board solve for moving companies, whether they're small, new, or they got a major thing like United?
Well, I think it helps you. The biggest problem solver that Movers Dispatch does is it helps you expand your reach.
Yep.
So if you're not able, for example, you're a smaller, like the example we used earlier, you're a smaller company that doesn't have the reach in the network. This gives you that without, and I love the van line model. I'm not in the van line model. I've always done the independent. But it kind of gives you that somewhat of the van line model without the fees involved and the, the complexity of that part of it. So it just helps you with the networking. It gives you, and I've had van line owners that have called and said, hey, can we get on the load board? Yeah, absolutely. Because even if you're part of the van line network, interlining can still help your drivers. So maybe there isn't a load to get you back home that you're not, full, or maybe you have, maybe your guys that are hauling for you aren't going to a specific location. You could put that on there. So it's really open for anybody. So that's the biggest thing, that the problem we're solving is that it just expands your reach. It gives you opportunities to reach and network with multiple movers that you may have not had. The other option for you is probably to get on Google. And if you're looking for loads out of, San Francisco, to try to Google every mover out there.
Right.
Some future things that we are going to add on there that I didn't mention to you is I'll either partner with a company that is already pooling labor, or we're going to do something where we'll have a labor section where people can actually register. We can run a background check on them. They can upload an ID. That's super important versus having to go to some of the random websites or random parking lots to pick up labor, because you've heard that, I'm sure, in the moving industry. I won't mention
California, Arizona, they're just got to go to Home Depot and you can get all the help you want.
So won't mention any places, but the idea behind that is that if you do go to, let's say you're running loads to, I don't know, New York City, you need local labor. Well, you could get on there and say, I need laborers in New York City that are available, but that have been background checked. That way, you know who you're bringing to someone's house. You don't want to just have someone just show up. So that would be a requirement for these guys to go on there, that they actually have experience in the moving industry. They've cleared our background check and they've uploaded a current ID, an ID, so we know who they are. And that way, if you do want this person, you know who you're getting.
The only thing, I love that idea, by the way. Great. Having dealt with list guys for several years of my moving business, because what I would do is I would get my guys, they would load up the truck. I'd take the truck. I would have myself or somebody drive the truck to, from here to St. Louis. And then I would hire list guys to do the unload. The problem with that is that a lot of these list guys can be very flaky. Like they don't just show up. I mean, if you had some sort of way where it could be they're star rated, like U-Haul's moving labor system, that would be great. Cause then they could go, okay, good. Max Smith called me, I see that Max Smith has got 2 stars, but, Yankee Doodle has 10 or 5 stars or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm going to go with him. You know what I mean? And then, so the guys who are, who flake off, who do drugs and all the reality of the business.
Absolutely. As someone who's reliable to show up.
Yeah. So you're going to want to think, of course, the guy with the higher star rating is going to want more money. You know what I mean? Because I remember a list guy you could hire a list guy, and I'm sure in the moving business, you're aware of the list guys, right? You get $200 per person, right?
Yep.
Now it's about $250, $300 because of inflation and everything. But obviously they're going to want the bigger money, and they're going to be able to command that. And I think they're worth it. You know what I mean? I think list guys, if you get a good list guy, is just.
Which labor cost, that's a whole nother podcast. I could talk about that forever. Oh my gosh. That's been
one of the biggest things.
I'm going to quit my job and be a laborer and make $300 a day.
Yeah, and just do 2,100 pounds. Hell, I could do 2,100 pounds
for a living.
I could do 2,100 pounds myself.
You get
by
a
myself. I mean, and that's with appliances and big. Just give me a dolly and a hump strap, and I'm good to go. And I'm 53 years old and a bad back.
Yeah, my back's bad too. I don't know if I could do a fridge on my own. I might be able to do some other things on my own, but.
Well, it depends on the fridge size. If it's one of those double door fridges, I'm going to need a dolly. But if it's a regular fridge, I can get it on my back. That's not a problem.
But I think that would, if once we get that on there, that's something that's on my list for development. If we can do that, that would really be a kind of a one-stop shop for the driver, and the moving companies to find that labor. If someone's gone through the trouble of doing a background check and doing the application and all that, more than likely they're reputable.
Exactly.
I give them, they've at least gone through a few more steps than just listing their name and number on some random site that hasn't really. Right. The reason why that's important to me that they go through that whole process is because I've seen all kinds of stories, and I'm sure you have too. You just don't know who's going to show up. And it's super important that when you are a reputable moving company, that the people you bring into someone's home are reputable at the same time, that they're not gonna, take something. You're liable for all that. When you walk into someone's home, whoever you bring with you is your liability.
Exactly.
So
I agree. Yeah, and you don't want guys who are going to strong arm you, like, I mean, the reputation of the list guys can be, you go to anything like Brotherhood or anything online on Facebook, you can hear the horror stories of list guys. So if you have some sort of thing that makes them jump through the hoops a little bit, and there's a star rating, then you're going to feel confident. Go, okay, guys, I'm not going to get hire helper or moving helper guys who are just doing it for meth money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to get guys who in the business have been in the business, take pride in their work. And I like that idea. Let me ask you this. I find that there, whether it's a carrier or a company or in the future or laborers, is there going to be some sort of like, other than the stars of any kind of recognition thing, like, hey, we're going to give you a badge for you. You've been on the thing for like.
Yeah, did you find it on the site?
I did, yeah.
Yes. So we've got the trust badge, and basically you pay a little bit extra every month. I think it's like $39 a month, $39.99 a month. And what we do is we validate. As Movers Dispatch Board, we do a little bit more extensive research on your company and make sure that you are a good, reputable company. And we throw the trust badge on there. We do that on a month-to-month basis because people's reputation can change.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really pushed trust badge a whole lot. I was waiting for my network to kind of just grow a little bit more before I really started pushing. Like I mentioned earlier today, I want to sell people value. And, and I've had subscribers where I've said, hey, you know what? Like, I want you just give it a try. I don't want to make any money on you right now. Like, eventually, obviously, I don't want to work for free. But right now, I just want you to trust me enough to go on and try it, give it a try. If it's not working for you, even when you subscribe, it's month to month. There's no long-term contract. I'm not tying people into, sign on for a whole year, pay me up front for a whole year or 2 years or 3 years. No, try it on month to month. I know like business fluctuates. Nobody wants that extra headache. So I get it. But the trust badge, what I really like about that, it was kind of like the big search engine, the Google verified, something similar to that situation where we would do manual checks on these companies. And then we basically say, you know what, they're a trusted subscriber. So we've done the background on them. They're paying a little bit extra. And that the little extra money that they're paying for is just for the time for us to actually do it's going to be a manual check. So we're going to go back and check them out manually.
If I might just critique that business model, just like I wouldn't charge, because here's a thing, like Twitter doesn't charge. Well, they do charge, but to get verified on Google or YouTube or any of these, no one charges you. However, what I would do is I would charge them a one-time fee, like a large, maybe $100 or something to get validated, right? And then they get the beginner, the trust badge. Then after they do 100 moves or 50 moves or 50, positive loads or 50 positive carries, they get the 50 badge. And if they do 100, they get 100 badge. And then
I love that. Yes, that's a great idea.
Then it's that's based on merit versus, I just bought it. You know what I mean? Because people will game it if they just go and go, okay, I'll pay $39 for the trust badge. You know what I mean? But then, okay, if I lose it, I just pay it again or whatever the game is. They'll figure a way to game it. But if it's based on, merit, then there's no way that they can do it. And then they, like you said, every month, they could lose their thing. If they get too many strikes, if you will, against them, they could lose their badge. Right. And then they have to start from zero or from the next tier down or something like that.
I love that idea. That's a really great idea. Thank you for that.
So I think if you based your badges based on merit, I think that would be really cool. You know what I mean? Just so that there's different levels, and then maybe if you were to do have the system, the money goes through your system, right? Through pay, if you ever decide to do that, you could take like a little bit out of everything, like out of every transaction, and that could go into a pool. So everybody who hits thing gets like a little bonus or whatever. That's something you don't have to do that. I'm just saying that's a suggestion.
Oh no, you know what? I love the suggestions. I love the feedback. When I talk to current subscribers, I tell them, I said, give me feedback. Whatever, when you're using the platform, give me feedback. Let me know what you think. That's how we'll all be able to develop something that works for a lot of people. You know, it's just by getting user feedback, user ideas, people in the industry who have experience. So everyone's experience is important because kind of to build a good product, you kind of have to be open to hearing what everyone needs in the industry. Obviously, don't want to build a product and say, no, I don't want your ideas, because at that point, I'm not really going to keep my customers happy. My clients are, you know, owners of moving companies. Their feedback is super crucial. That's how I know what to develop next.
No, I really like the idea that you charge like a one-time fee, maybe even make it like a, you know, somewhat.
I like that. I like it a whole lot. I love the merit system.
I mean, if you go to any of the major softwares, like let's say Fiverr, you go up to Fiverr, they've got like 4 or 5 levels. You know, I mean, they've got level 1, level 2.
They do. Yep.
You know, so you know if you're going to get like a pro mover, and then you're going to get thing, but you also know that you're going to pay more for that versus somebody at level 1 who's just
absolutely.
So I just think that would be really cool, because then it just builds trust, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, if I'm you know, if star ratings are great, but then if I built like, oh look, I've done 50 perfect moves in a row, right?
Yeah.
I might even have a really good star rating, right? But if I've done 50 moves in a row perfectly, awesome. Or maybe I have a bad star review. Maybe I had a couple of bad month or something, and I've got like a 3.9 or a 4, but I got the 50 moves in a row perfect badge. Then somebody go, okay, that gives the guy a chance to rebuild his reputation.
Absolutely.
Just a suggestion.
Oh, I love the suggestion. It's got my brain going. I'm thinking now, I'm like,
Hey, you should hire me as your marketer.
You know what? Hired.
I'd kill it for you. I guarantee it. I've got 10. I'm not bragging. I got 10,000 subscribers nearly on YouTube.
I saw that. I looked that up.
Yeah.
I watched your videos and I said, okay, do I want to meet with this guy? And I saw your videos. I'm like, okay, he seems like a very likable person. I definitely would want, I was honored that you wanted to even have me on. So thank you very much.
No, not a problem. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So
yeah, I saw your service
videos and I said, absolutely. Like when you messaged me back, and then that's, I said, I'd absolutely do this. So thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. I saw your service and I'm like, oh damn, man, I got to talk to this lady. Right. Just because I'm like, one, I love the service, the premise of it, because like I said, back in my day, all you had was U-Ship or the load boards from like C.H. Robinson and things like that are just crap. Right. If you're a freight person, they're awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole thing too. Because I've had people ask me, are you going to put freight on there? And I said, absolutely not, because we don't need that in the moving industry. We don't need freight. If you want freight, there's freight boards out there that work, so there's no reason for me to get into the freight business whatsoever. This is what household movers need. This is something for us. We're completely different. Our services are completely different. What we do is completely different. So we don't really fit that business model. But if you supplement with it, great. It's easy because it's dock to dock. The money's not there like it is though in household goods. Household goods is where the money's at, and transportation.
Right. No, this would be like I said earlier. This is, I think, for me personally, I would, if I was a new guy that's just starting out, and let's say I'm just doing labor only. This would be a good way for me to transition into the long distance full service model without having all of the moving trucks, because I could go and create a board. I could go and get a U-Haul truck, take it to a local storage facility, right? Have it stored, or even one of the van liners and take it to a van liner, have it stored in a thing, or even on the pods or something, right? And I could then I could then do that. Yes, it would add some complexity, but the shipper doesn't need to know all of that. All they need to know is like, hey, I'm going to take your stuff, ship it out to Seattle, and I don't have to actually go. I can still concentrate on my local business, right? And then for the guys who do have authority and do have a truck or two, preferably 2 or 3 trucks, this is a great way to keep their guys busy and during the winter times or in the slow times, and still not go too far, but still be able to do all of that. You might not make a lot of money necessarily if you were to do the whole thing, right? Granted, but here you get to keep the guys busy. You get to keep the trucks out there. The more your trucks are on the road with your branding on it, the more you're seen, right? So there's a lot of benefits to it. And I see even from the big guys, these guys get busy during the summer and they don't want to do these smaller loads. They want to, they don't want to take, 1,000-pound load from New York to San Francisco.
No, it makes no sense.
Yeah. So, or whatever. So you could go and go, hey, boom, I could grab some of the ones that they don't want. Right. And then again, if I have a load that's like an 8,000 pounds, then I could put that on the load board and I could have somebody go and take it and I could concentrate and still be here and I could double my money necessarily.
Absolutely. I mean, it like I said, it will help the van line model as well because it expands their reach. I mean, they already have a big network, right. but it does help in situations where peak seasons, the times where you get stuck with a shipment that you don't want to run a full truck for. It makes no sense to do that. So this is where this will solve that problem. I had someone that I talked to last week who did actually subscribe to the load board. They are a container storage company where they do the pickups with the container. I won't say the brand. I always try to keep things confidential with people that I talk to, but they were looking into it because they wanted to expand their reach too. And they had a couple of locations, but then there's obviously the rest of the country that they don't, service. But they were interested in this because they would interline the delivery. So they'd bring in the container and then they're able to interline the container system, which is, similar to a pod or whatever. So,
right. That's,
and then that would work. That would work really well too for that.
Nice. Yeah.
My conversation with him is it's less expensive for me to interline on Movers Dispatch Board than for me to have a carrier interline it on a container. And I said this would be a great solution for that.
I like that idea. I never thought of it, but yeah. So I really think this solves a lot of problem for from the new guy to the more experienced guys. I think it's great because, I hated deadheading. I really did. And this, if you had been around,
you really can't. Yeah, it's like the worst thing to do.
I just deadheading's the worst. And not only that, even if I'm only making half of what I would have made if I would have done the full thing, it's still enough money to pay my expenses and to make the original trip complete profit.
Right.
So right. even if I have to go out of my way a little bit.
Yeah, you're not running at a loss. Yeah. By bringing loads back, you're not running back at a loss at all. You're not running. You're making money coming back. So it's definitely a win-win situation.
Yep. All right. Let me ask you. Here's the $1 million question or $64,000 question, whatever you want to call it. How much do I have to bring out of my pocket to be a member on a monthly basis for your service?
Okay. So currently in 2024, we're changing the way the subscription model works. So we'll have that released before end of the year. Everyone who's signed up before and have canceled for whatever reason, everyone who's a current subscriber, it's free to join Movers Dispatch Board if you're gonna post loads or post trucks. So if you want to just post your trucks, if you want to post your loads, no monthly fee. No, none whatsoever. The only time you'll actually start paying or have to select a subscription is when you start requesting loads. We're doing that so that way you can get on. We're trying to build the network. And this is going to be the easiest way for us to build a big network of people who actually start posting. It's not costing anything, but you can stay signed on. You can still view the board until we get it large enough to where it makes sense for you to start paying us. No, I don't want people's money unless you start finding business. Once that happens, once you start requesting loads, we've got 3 different plans. The first plan gives you 10 loads a month for you to accept. It's $199 a month. The
Okay.
next one up is 25 loads, and that's $299 a month, and then unlimited $299, not $2. And then unlimited loads is $399 a month, and that's month to month. It's monthly. You don't have to sign up for a whole year. So if it's working for you some months and some months it's not, you don't have to continuously pay. So I know
Oh,
some
good.
people have to cut back on expenses for whatever reason they may have, whether work slow or
Right.
just
Right.
don't like time. I've never been a big fan of being tied into a long-term contract or a subscription. I don't like that. But
Right.
that way it gives people the opportunity, maybe their business model changes, or for whatever reason, if they want to bounce on and off the board, you're basically paying monthly.
Oh, I like that. So you could do month to month. So like in the wintertime, you want to do 25 loads a month could keep your guys pretty busy.
Oh, absolutely.
10, maybe not so much. 25, yeah. 3, the unlimited.
Absolutely. The unlimited is $399. So if you really take, for example, if you take 25, $299 divided by 25, that's what, $12.
Yeah.
$12 a load.
Yeah,
If you're going to
nothing.
hire a third-party dispatcher, which I've talked to a bunch of companies that have third-party dispatchers that will guarantee loads, they're paying 10 cents a cube to guarantee loads on their truck. I'm not asking you for 10 cents a cube.
Yeah, no. I mean, technically you could and you would be worth it.
Yeah,
But
it would be more profitable to do it that way. I'm not even asking for that, because if you filled a complete semi, right, 4,200 cubes at 10 cents a cube, it's $620, and you're not paying that for any of my subscriptions.
right.
So definitely, the money is definitely, it's not a lot. I've had people say, oh, it's a lot of money, but if you really do the numbers as far as like what you would pay a dispatcher to keep your truck full, the average rate's about 10 cents a cube.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because they're going to be on it your dispatcher is going to be full time doing all this stuff. So they're more than just getting the loads. They're finding the loads. They're booking the loads. They're doing the agreements. They're doing all the stuff. They're making sure the carrier is not running into any problems throughout the load. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a very affordable thing. I mean, I'm excited. I really am. Let's talk about you personally, right?
Okay.
I noticed you got some sort of diploma behind you. What is that?
Yes. So I graduated from UT Arlington. I've got a business degree in management. I have a very interesting story with my background as far as my education goes. So I obviously was in school after graduating high school, started college, and then I was working and going to school at the same time. And then we started a moving company. And this was my ex-husband and I. We started a moving company together, and we were doing really well, very, very well, to where I was at the point where I'm going to just drop out of school. I don't know if I need to continue on with my college education. And then the recession happened. And then I thought, oh my gosh, wait a minute. We went from doing, you were in the moving industry at the time too, so you know exactly what happened.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a very difficult time. And at that point I thought, well, gosh, who would pay me the kind of money I'm used to making? Who's going to pay me 6 figures plus without a college degree? So I decided to go back to school. I only had a year left. So I went back to UT Arlington, got my degree, graduated, and then never really went into the workforce. I still continued to work for the company that I was running. So, but it was just like a wake up call for me, because I decided, who's going to take me seriously in this world and pay me what I'm used to making if I don't have a college degree? This is important. And it was like a personal achievement that I needed to go back. Now, I never went back to get an MBA or, go any further than that. College education is important. I think, I instilled that with my kids, and I've got one going to college next year. So it's super important. But I think with entrepreneurship, it's, you either have it or you don't. So you get some strong foundation and strong skills and things that, that you learn from the books. But as a business person, a salesperson, an entrepreneur, I grew up with parents that were both entrepreneurs. So you kind of learn that. I learned it at a young age.
All right, cool. Yeah. So, there are, just a side note, there are many online schools that will take your work experience and so on and transfer that to an MBA, that you can go get an MBA probably fairly quickly
All
if
right,
you
I'm
want.
gonna do it, Jay.
Huh?
Send me the link. I'm gonna do it.
All right,
It's important, but to me, that's not. It's
right.
like, okay, if it happens,
It happens.
great. But
Okay. All right, good. So, you say you're still working in the moving business? Yes.
yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell us the business or no?
No, because I really want to focus on Movers Dispatch Board, and
Okay.
that company is. I mean, I'm sure if you pull me up on LinkedIn, you'll find it. It's great. I'm not the sole owner of that company. I'm a partner there, and that's where my experiences come from. But me being on with you today was really more so to push Movers Dispatch Board. Movers Dispatch Board is really kind of where I would like to.
That's where you're transitioning.
That's my transition.
Yeah.
So my transition is to eventually, my main focus and what I do will be. I love the moving industry, but I'm looking to kind of transition out and get more into the technology and software and the load board and work on that.
Excellent. I like that. Now, what is your goals for next year, next 3 years, next 5 years, and so on for Movers Dispatch Board?
Well, my goal is to build a strong network, a strong network with over 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal, is to have over at least 1,000 subscribers. There's over 15,000 registered companies in the U.S. that are licensed to haul household goods. And so I think 1,000 gives me a good share. It's not obviously a huge, but it gives me a good percentage of, companies. So that's as far as subscriber goals, that's our number one goal. And then the other thing is to continuously expand into different services that we offer that are specifically for household movers, like talking about the labor, the financial part of it, the reputation of who we've got on board, making those strong points solid. So that way we can build trust. That's the big thing.
Nice. All right. So, some personal questions for you. Married, kids?
Single. No, yes. No, I'm not married, and I do have 3 children, 3 amazing children. I've got an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 12-year-old. 2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy. Wow.
Yeah.
The boy must keep you. That's why your hair is all frizzy.
Yes. Well, my girls have frizzy hair too. No, he's amazing. He's the little one, and I can do no wrong with him. So.
Oh, there you go.
He loves his mom.
How old is he?
12.
Oh, okay, good. So
he still likes me right now, for now.
Yeah, give him a couple more years.
Yeah, exactly.
Your girls, you say are both of them in college age or just one?
The older one's a senior in high school. She'll graduate this year. The next one is a sophomore in high school, so she'll be a junior next year. So my senior's applied to a couple of universities. She's already gotten accepted into UT Austin, and then
nice.
She's applied to a couple of on the East Coast as well.
Nice. Okay. Very good. All right. Good. So, so you still got the kids in that stage, that honeymoon stage yet still. Awesome. So, what do you do for fun? Do you like to read, watch movies?
Oh my gosh. If you only knew what I did for fun. So I was in boxing for many years. I did that.
Was I.
Yeah.
Then I got fat.
Yeah, I did that. I was in CrossFit. I
didn't do that.
Run a lot of half marathons. I run a lot of Spartan races. I'm super athletic. I'm very outdoorsy, hike, water sports, like anything that just skiing, anything that's me being outdoors, I love to do. So
that's skiing, can't do much of that skiing in the DFW area.
No, and now that's kind of been knocked off the radar. Last year, I tore my ACL in Hawaii doing a Spartan race. Oh. And so that's been kind of, okay, now I'm no more skiing for me. So it's mostly stuff that keeps me, semi.
You still do the bunny hills? You still do the bunny hills? Come on.
I just go down on my butt on a
There you
That'll
go.
work.
Get a sled and
A
sled down.
sled, yeah, that'll work. I like anything that's adventurous, honestly. So anything that is a little adventurous and a little crazy, you'll find me doing it. So
Cool. All right. So what's some of your quirks here? What is some of the funny things that you find embarrassing about yourself?
I make a lot of facial expressions. I didn't realize I did that till I started seeing myself on camera, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I make a lot of facial expressions." And people used to always tell me, "We could tell with your face what you're thinking," and I didn't really believe them. And then I started doing some reels for Movers Dispatch Board, and getting on the camera, and I realized, oh my gosh, I make so many facial expressions. It's really funny. So
nice. You got any questions for me?
how did you come across my information, or how did you find me?
I can't really remember. I remember I was looking at something and I saw your name and it said Movers Dispatch. And I was like, what's that? So I clicked it on. Quite honestly, I clicked because you were attractive. I'm not flirty. I'm just telling you giving you a fact. So I said, so I checked it out, and then I saw that, and I was like, and then I went to your website, and I looked at your website. It's like, yeah, I need to talk to this lady. This would be perfect in my opinion. I was like, this would be perfect for my guys to learn about, to know about, because I know what it was like at their stage. And I was like, man, if I would have had this available. So I wanted to talk to you, but you didn't make it easy for me. I'll be honest.
Well, anytime you want to have me on your podcast, and I would be more than honored to be on. So
nice.
Anytime you want, if you want a sidekick, I'll be your lady.
I will. Well, please. I was thinking about starting a podcast where I was going to get a couple people, big guys in the moving industry, and do like a Monday kind of thing in the morning, like a motive thing to get people through. So I'll keep you in mind for that. See if you're interested in that. All right, excellent. So if somebody wants to learn more about you and your business, how do they get a reach? How do they contact you?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, so look me up on LinkedIn. You can direct message me on LinkedIn anytime. So my name is obviously.
She won't respond for 4 days, but she'll contact you.
Oh, I will definitely contact you. My email address, I don't know if you want to post that up on the screen. Anyone can email me. It's Nisrine, Nisrine @moversdispatchboard.com. I'm really good about emails. LinkedIn, I'm trying to get better on, but emails, I'm in front of my emails all the time. And then also my cell number. If somebody wants to call me directly, you're more than welcome to call me directly.
Let's not put your
no.
cell number.
No. All right, let's not do that then. Okay, we're good there.
Good. So what's your company's URL?
It's www.moversdispatchboard.com.
Good. And they can contact you through the website as well?
Absolutely. We've got an info email, so it's info@moversdispatchboard.com. So they can email directly there or email me directly. That's fine.
Cool. All right, Nisrine, man, I really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you coming on. Your service is amazing. And I can't do it right now, but I'm going to reach out to you about the affiliate program. But thank you so much for being here. You're a great guest. You are lively, informative, and I really appreciate it. And I will reach out to you and see if we can't do this again. So thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, Jay.
All right. I'm going to let you go. You have a great day.
You too. Bye.